early in the season in maybe 20 years. Atop the NFC East is the reigning Super Bowl champions from Philadelphia. So much conversation about this, that, and the other, what they're not doing well. All they do is win. Meanwhile, the Packers at 5-2-1 atop the very talented NFC North as well. We welcome in Laura now on the Packers side of things, and it's really interesting how Micah Parsons is chasing around a guy he used to chase around when one played for Dallas and the other played for New York. But Parsons' familiarity with this team and what they're facing tonight, how does that get baked into the approach tonight?
Yeah, Scott, it's something that he knows all too well, right? He said those three offensive weapons for the Eagles, talking about A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Devontae Smith, are three of the best to do it in football. And he said you go into a game like this and know that you're not going to pitch a shutout, but he said it's really important to limit the explosive plays. You know they're going to score points on the other side. How can you make sure that it's not detrimental to what you're doing? And for that, it really comes down to making sure that they cannot go over the top and do things that are going to become home runs in this game. Now then there's the tush push, which he also addressed. He said, listen, I don't know how to stop that thing. It just gives them more momentum every single time it happens. So instead, the goal, avoiding third and short. He said that's probably the best way to stop that tush push, Scott.
Yeah, there's really no way to stop that thing.
I would agree. Stay out of third.
Honestly, you can stop it if you come to the Monday Night Football game in a wetsuit, right? He got on dang a windsuit and is swishing when he walks in. Micah Parsons, he didn't come here to dress up and be cute. He came here to do ugly things like stop the tush push. Like, that's why you dress like that.
Three-time Super Bowl champion and Hall of Famer Troy Aikman is with us. And Troy, there's so many layers to this that are compelling. I'm curious about the quarterback for Philadelphia. And when we talk about the best in the league, there are a long list. And I don't feel like Jalen Hurts necessarily gets mentioned relative to his accomplishments this year. He's protecting the football. They score at a high rate. He can throw it, he can run it. And I feel like you're seeing an evolution of a guy, and I wonder how much of that is the house money of I've got one of these chips now. I don't have to prove it to anybody. What do you see and experience when you're talking to him now?
I like him a lot. I like what he's done. And I don't think it's the most quarterback-friendly of offenses. You know, it's not a team that runs a lot of screens. They don't get the ball out as quick as what maybe you would like. The friendly part of it is that they've got Saquon Barkley and they've got really good wide receivers. There's not a lot of scheme that just necessarily frees guys up across the middle of the field, but he has done some really amazing things as far as when he is in the pocket, he delivers it accurately. He's able to create, of course, with his legs. But I like what he's been able to do. There are times when you watch it and there's just really nowhere to go with the football, and then he's able to create some things and make it happen. So I do agree with you that Jalen Hurts, he's played at a high level, he's playing at a high level, and you look at the stats, and we're in a stats world to where, well, he's not throwing for as many yards. Well, they don't throw the ball the way that a lot of these other teams do either. They're built on running the football, as you know, Jason.
He got his best percentage completion-wise as well.
That's right, and that was, you know, maybe the reason I like him so much, because it was kind of my career, you know, that you're not throwing it as much as what some of these other teams are, but yet when you do, they are throwing it very effectively and doing a lot of good things. So I like where this team's at. I like the acquisitions that Howie Roseman made. I like the defense. They're only going to get better. I like everything about the organization. There's not much not to like.
Well, and conversely, on the other side, Jordan Love, you talk about quick screens and getting the ball out quick. That's something that they've really mastered all season, and since Thor's been there. Would you like to see them to start pushing the ball? They don't really have those explosives down the field that they've kind of had in the past.
Well, kind of what's gotten to them is that they haven't worked the intermediate portions of the field as much, and so they have been big play or bust, so to speak. Yeah. You know, I mean, and they're not running the ball quite as well as what they have in the past. Jordan Love, he's playing at a high level too. These teams, in a lot of ways, are very similar in what they want to do and how they want to try to attack you. Where Jordan gets into trouble is when he gets a little impatient, and then we saw it last week, and then he wants to create the big play and get the ball down the field. I do think that with Christian Watson coming back 2 weeks ago, he's already had an impact on that offense, and he'll continue to do so.
I want to go to the New York Giants. Obviously not a team that's playing as well as the two we'll see tonight. They decided to part ways with Brian Daboll and decided that Joe Shane is actually going to be the general manager in charge of picking the next head coach. What do you believe ultimately went into the decision to make that move at this point?
Yeah, I'm just going on reports because you're not in the building, but you look at what they did the first year, and obviously it surpassed everybody's expectations, and I think even ownership would probably admit that they realized even then that they probably played above their heads and were able to make it to the postseason. But since then, we just really haven't seen much growth within that football team, and anytime you draft a quarterback like they did with Jackson Dart, you then expect that he's going to be the franchise, but if he had to play this year, it's probably not going to be a good sign, and then he's been battling that. So I think it was a decision that they made based on the fact they weren't seeing enough progress this year. There were reports a couple weeks ago that there was talk of maybe firing him then after the Denver loss, and so after yesterday's loss again, I think most people kind of saw the writing on the wall.
T.A., I want to come back to this game. I feel like we kind of been waffling on Green Bay because of the games that they've lost. Cleveland, Carolina, like just unconventional. How much of this team, and everybody can attribute it to a quarterback, so this team in the long run is on Jordan Love as opposed to everything else that's around?
Well, I think a big part of it, I mean, there's no doubt that this team, I think it's built for a quarterback. They've got a really good defense, so there's a lot of things to like. I like the receiver group, and Jordan Love's played at a high level. I mean, I'm not an apologist for Jordan Love. I think he's a terrific player, but yeah, this team will go ultimately, like most teams, they're going to go as far as he takes them, and that's the one thing, you mentioned that Jalen Hurts, he has that box check that he's won a championship, and every other quarterback, including Jordan Love, that's where they're trying to get to.
Scott, I think sometimes, cause I asked Troy that because he say, a lot of what Jalen does, and I look at it very similar, right? You got a quarterback in Jordan Love that I feel like some games you are going to have to throw for 320 and 3 touchdowns. I never feel like that about Jalen Hurts. I feel like that team can win in so many ways. I think Green Bay got to win a championship with him being elite.
But I think the other difference is this, though. When you ask Jalen Hurts to do it, example, the Super Bowl, he has been able to do it. The same thing against Minnesota 3 weeks ago. And so I do believe that when Jalen Hurts is called upon to do that, he can. I think what Matt LaFleur needs to do is understand this game isn't about the running game anymore with Josh Jacobs, that Jordan Love can shoulder the load.
Well, Jason knows it better than anybody. The thing I love about Jalen Hurts is he's old school, and he just wants to win. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. And, there's a lot of quarterbacks, if they're throwing for as few yards as he has at times in games, they're pretty vocal about that. He's made it real. He just wants to win, and I admire that about him.
And I had a chance to visit with his head coach, and I said, hey, we're going to give your guys his flowers tonight because I feel like we talk about a lot of other guys. And he goes, you know what? Big yards, whatever. Do they make plays? Are they efficient? Do they value the ball? I said, yeah, that's all those things he's doing at a high level at this moment. And Troy, before we want to let you go, had the opportunity to talk a little bit about Paul Tagliabue last night on SportsCenter, a man who, from my perspective, in 17 years, that you can talk about post-Katrina, you can talk about 9/11 and how he handled that, but the elevation of the game, the fact that there were no work stoppages, the fact that there was harmony among both sides, and the game grew massively. We knew all that, but you knew him. Yeah. What would you share about who Paul Tagliabue was?
Well, I came into the league in '89, and that was his first year as the commissioner. So he was the commissioner throughout my time with the Cowboys, and just obviously a really smart guy. Did a lot to grow the game and get it to where it is today. I know that one year I left the Pro Bowl early at halftime, and Lee Steinberg, my agent at the time, called me and said, hey, Paul Tagliabue wants to see you in his office in New York. And I said, hey, just tell me what the fine is. I'm not going to fly all the way to New York just to get a butt chew. And he goes, no, he wants to talk to you about being a goodwill ambassador to the league. And I said, well, all right, then I'll make the trip. So I was in his office for 2 hours. Goodwill ambassador never came out of his mouth. He was a tough guy, too. But I had a lot of respect for him. He did a lot of.
What a spectacular story. So that